What's up guys, my name's Brandon and I've been using iOS 14 Beta 8 for a few days now, and as I always do, I wanted to give you guys a follow-up update on how the software has been running for me on multiple devices, including this iPhone 11 Pro, the iPad Pro, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and the 2020 iPhone SE. Which, by the way, if you guys have not seen my 2020 iPhone SE 5 months later review, which I just uploaded this past week, make sure to check that out. It is linked up in the cards above and also down in the description below. But anyways, of course, this video is all about iOS 14 Beta 8. So before we discuss the performance and the battery life and the bugs and the bug fixes, let's go over some additional new features and changes that I did not cover in my initial What's New video. So now in Beta 8, we can finally set the default browser and mail application. So as of right now, it's only the browsers. You can only do it with Google Chrome at the moment because this is actually not an iOS 14 Beta 8 feature. It's always been embedded in iOS 14, but it has to do with the applications and the developers supporting this feature with iOS 14. And Google Chrome is the first one to do it for the browsers. And as of right now, we don't have any mail applications like Gmail or Outlook or any of those email clients. None of them have updated their application yet to be used in iOS 14 as a default app. But if you do have the Google Chrome application installed and then head over to settings and then go down until you see Chrome right here. Once you tap on that, you will see right here we have default browser app, and you can change this from Safari to Chrome, which is nice. So now if you get like a text message with a link, or if you go on Twitter and click on a link, it will now open up in Chrome by default instead of Safari. So here's a link from Twitter. If I go ahead and tap on that and then go ahead and press the bottom right to open in Safari, you can see there it shows up and opens in Google Chrome instead of Safari because we have that setting changed right here. Now, like I said, this is not available for mail applications yet, but we should see updates very soon to applications like maybe Spark and Gmail, and then you'll be able to use those as your default mail client instead of the mail application. And this could just be the beginning for default applications. Hopefully in the future we get the ability to use something like Waze as our default maps application. That would be nice. And of course maybe Spotify instead of Apple Music, but I don't really see that one happening. But we could see more in the future. But as for iOS 14, it's just the web browser and the mail for now. Another change in iOS 14 Beta 8 is if we go into the music and into the now playing section, we actually get a dim background when we enable dark mode. So the background, you'll notice, dims. It's a very subtle change, and you'd really have to take two pictures side by side to see this difference. And that's actually how I found out about it. It was on Reddit, so shout out to a Reddit user on the iOS beta subreddit. But you will notice a slightly more dim and a little darker background in the now playing section when you have dark mode enabled. Also, if we go into the shortcuts application here in Beta 8 and go to one of our shortcuts right here, tap the three dots, you will see we have a new toggle here for show in sleep mode. And this was not there in Beta 7 or any previous beta, and this is new inside of the shortcuts application. So this is just going to allow you to show these specific shortcuts inside of sleep mode and not just bedtime mode. So there is a difference between bedtime and like when it's preparing you for sleep mode and actual sleep mode. So I've seen a little bit of confusion about that. And also in Beta 8, we have seen improvements to both back tap and Face ID. So I've seen multiple people talk about the performance being improved with Face ID. So some people are saying it's faster. Some are saying it just scans their face more accurately. And then also we have more back tap improvements, which of course is the feature inside of settings. And if we go to our accessibility up here, accessibility, and then down to touch, and then all the way down to back tap. This of course is the feature where you can double tap or triple tap the back of your phone to invoke certain actions. This has gotten better throughout the betas, and it's gotten even better in Beta 8. So that is good news for those of you who use the back tap feature, which is very handy. Now, as far as bug fixes go, we do have a few bug fixes in Beta 8 that I was waiting to see if they've been fixed. So I did mention these in my Beta 8 What's New video, and I also mentioned them in Beta 7 in both my Beta 7 videos. But the messages bugs have been completely fixed now in Beta 8. So I now have no issues with the quick reactions or text messages disappearing. So I showed you guys in my last video that sometimes the other person I'm texting, their text would just completely disappear and it would only show my bubbles inside of the text conversation until I force close out of the application. But I've not had that happen one time here on Beta 8. And I've also had no issue with reacting to messages quickly. Also on iPadOS 14 Beta 8, the small icons that showed up in Beta 7 on the iPad have been fixed. So that was a really weird bug where basically it would just show small icons, like iPhone sized icons on the iPad. That has been fixed in beta 8 as expected. Also in beta 8, we now get the ability to have a blank page again. So if you move all your applications over to one page, you can have a blank page on the springboard, which a lot of people seem to like in previous betas, and they took it away in beta 7 and added the ability back here in beta 8. Now, we did have a lot of bug fixes, but there are still some remaining bugs here in beta 8. And the first one I want to talk about is a laggy keyboard. So I saw a lot of people on my recent videos talking about their keyboard lagging in iOS 14 and pretty much all the betas. But the thing is, there's also been people reporting this on iOS 13. So that makes me think that this is not an issue with iOS 14, but it's just an issue overall with iOS, and it may actually be a user issue. So maybe the user just doesn't have a lot of storage space, so their device is just laggy as is, and it has nothing to do with the software itself, or it's just, completely software based and it has to do with, iOS 13 and iOS 14, and maybe it's not just the user. So I'm not sure. I have not had a laggy keyboard at all in iOS 14 since iOS 14 beta 2, and that was when a lot more people reported it, but there are still some people reporting a laggy keyboard here in beta 8. But once again, it is not an issue with iOS 14 beta 8 because I have had a lot of people report that in iOS 13.7 as well. Now, one bug that has popped up in beta 8 is widgets randomly disappearing. So I had some people report to me that their widgets would sometimes just completely disappear until they locked their device and unlocked it. And some people had to reboot their device before the widget showed back up. So that is a strange bug, and that is just a very minor one that I'm sure will be fixed in the GM build, which is coming next. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that is one bug that I saw a couple of people mentioning. Now, speaking of widgets, I did also see some people talk about the shortcuts widget giving them some issues. So basically when you would change pages and go back, it would kind of just flash and show either a new shortcut or it would just flash in and out of that shortcut and it would still be kind of finicky. So seems like there are still some fixes to be made to the widget. Now, also another issue in beta 8, which was brought to my attention by Quinn over at Snazzy Labs. You can see here, he said this on Twitter. He said, "Heads up, iOS 14 beta 8 makes using your iPhone as an actual telephone very bad." And he went on to actually reply to somebody with what he means. He said that he can't hear callers and vice versa, switched output mid-call, some calls answered immediately dropped. So basically he would have dropped calls. When he would try to switch the output, it would bug out. And he also said that it switched the output device mid-call. So maybe if he had something connected, it would kind of just switch to that and then switch back to his phone. I'm not sure, but I've not had any issues with this at all in iOS 14 since like the first beta, I believe, or maybe the second beta. I have not had issues with phone calls at all, but it seems like some people still are. Another bug that I've seen on beta 8 has to do with the weather widget and the weather application. So if you have your weather widget set to current location and not a specific location, then if you click on it, sometimes it will not show any of the effects in the background. So like if it was raining, it would not show the rain. And if it was like, a starry night or something like that, it wouldn't show the stars unless you had it set to a specific location and not your current location. So just a very weird bug there that will definitely be fixed in the next beta, but that is just a strange, very minor bug with the weather application and the weather widget. And then also some pre-existing automations inside of the shortcuts application still do not work properly. So my wake up alarm right here, basically when it tells me the weather and things like that, is not working properly in iOS 14. I have to make a new one for it to work. I have to kind of just replicate that and then it works. So that is still a bug in iOS 14 beta 8. And at this point, I don't think it's gonna be fixed. You're basically just gonna have to set up new automations if they do not work, which is kind of disappointing. Now, as far as the performance goes, performance on beta 8 is terrific. Of course, this is the best beta yet. And of course, that's how it pretty much always goes. The later on you get, the more stable it is and the better of a beta it is. But this has an A at the end of the build number, which does usually indicate that it's probably gonna be the most solid beta that we've had yet. So yeah, performance is great. I've really had no lockups. I've had no random resprings, really nothing. I don't have the keyboard lag like some people are reporting. I really have no issues whatsoever on iOS 14 beta 8. Same with iPadOS 14 beta 8. No issues on the iPad at all. Seems like the iPad has been more stable for me than iOS has been from the get-go. But of course, iOS has caught up and it doesn't have near as many bugs as it did within the first few betas. Now, as far as battery life goes, beta 8 is also the best for battery life, just like the performance, and that's really expected with an A build. And after 8 betas, you would expect the battery life to be as good as it gets on iOS 14. Now, the GM and the final version could have better battery life, but I'm willing to bet that it's going to be exactly the same as beta 8. There could be a slight improvement in the GM, but usually you don't see too drastic of a difference in battery life going from something late like a beta 8 to the final version. So if we're going to get more battery life enhancements and things like that and fixes to that, it's probably going to be in like 14.1, 14.2 and versions like that. So I've had no issues, and I've seen a lot of people in my comments talking about how great their battery life is on a wide range of devices, including the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 7, which is good to see, and the iPhone XR, because those three specifically did have battery life issues early on in the iOS 14 beta cycle. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the community poll and see how iOS 14 beta 8 has been for you guys. So as you can see here, I asked, how has iOS 14 beta 8 been for you? And 30% said excellent, no annoying bugs, 12% said good, just some minor bugs, 3% said decent, buggy, and bad battery, 1% said terrible, they had to downgrade, and 53% are not on iOS 14 yet. And if we compare that to beta 7, so we had 30% for excellent, 24% for excellent on beta 7, and beta 6 was just 15%. So massive improvements here that you guys are reporting. So 15% to 24% to now 30% of people are having an excellent experience on beta 8. So that is just great to see, and really proves that these versions are getting a lot more stable with time, just as they should be. So now let's go ahead and talk about some of these comments. Let's go ahead and mention some of these comments here. So somebody said the only thing is the shortcuts widget always repopulating for half a second whenever switching home screen pages or scrolling through the smart stack, but nothing annoying, and performance is amazing. So yes, I did mention that issue with the shortcuts widget. Performance has been good for me on the iPhone XR, Ultrashot says. Well, to be honest, I would say that it has been less buggy this update, and also a bug I realized is some images, stickers, and other extensions would open up, but would just freeze on the keyboard section. So somebody else also talking about the keyboard lagging, and it seems like they may be using a third-party keyboard, I'm not sure, but that could also be one thing to consider if you are having lag. Maybe it's because you're not using the default keyboard, or it's just filled up with stickers. I'm not too sure, because I've had no issues with that. So Masood here said battery life is great on the iPhone 11, and speed-wise is pretty good as well. Nick Gaming says that he's using the iPhone 7 and everything is outstanding. That is great to hear from iPhone 7 users. Babu here says, I couldn't add a card for my payments on App Store, had to downgrade to iOS 13. That definitely does not sound like an issue with iOS 14, but I could be wrong there. Beta 8 is running amazing on my iPhone 7, so another iPhone 7 user, Nikki here. Battery life has been improved yet again and is no longer draining overnight. Every app I've installed is working perfectly fine again, and performance is also amazing. Can't wait for the final release. So great news there for iPhone 7 users. It seems like the performance and battery life have really picked up here with these latest betas. So far it's running flawlessly on my iPhone 11. Good to hear. Another iPhone 7 user reporting a great experience here in beta 8. I'm on the iPhone 6s, and this beta has been great from battery life to performance. Everything feels solid and good. So you can see there are a good amount of people agreeing with him there with 11 likes. And here is BingPod, who always leaves a nice detailed comment on these posts. So I appreciate you, BingPod. He said that he's running this on his XR. Battery life has been pretty much the same for the last few betas, but not totally back to where it was in iOS 13. I would agree with that. Battery life is not as good as iOS 13, but it is close. And he's reporting an issue here where he had the flashlight and the camera buttons both disappear on the lock screen. So I've not had that at all. I don't think in any iOS version, but he is having that. The keyboard has stuttered or lagged when typing sometimes. So that is what a lot of people have also reported on there. He says the clock widget sunrise sunset feature still doesn't properly work when date and time is set to automatic, but he's testing it with that off. And then also he says that when you open the app switcher, some widgets like the clock widget and the weather widget like increase in brightness or illuminate white. However, I've noticed that the battery widget does not do this and thus remains normal. It's more apparent to see when you have no apps open and try to do this. So some pretty good insight on some bugs that some users are reporting here. And I'll just read a couple more of these. If you guys want to read all of them, of course, you can go over to the community tab and read all of those. My volume on my iPhone XS Max changes on its own. Why? That is definitely not an issue with iOS 14. Maybe you have an Apple Watch or something else that's controlling the volume. Maybe you're accidentally hitting the crown on your Apple Watch. I'm not sure, but that does not sound like an iOS 14 issue to me. Tony here said that he noticed a pretty significant lag after getting off a FaceTime call yesterday, and his phone got super warm and he had to close out of all applications. Afterwards, it performed just fine though. So interesting there. I've not had really any issues with FaceTime in quite a while. Good so far on the iPhone 10, battery almost there. Minor bugs 1 or 2 times. That's it. So some great reviews there of iOS 14 beta 8. I like to read your guys' comments as well to kind of see where everybody else stands, and I get a lot more insight than just myself and my devices, since everybody uses their device differently. So thank you to everybody who left a comment on that. It really does help out with these videos. So now when can we expect the next iOS 14 beta? So of course we are on that 1 week cycle, so we can expect iOS 14 beta 9, which will very likely be the GM or the Golden Master version. We can expect that on the week of the 14th, but of course Apple does have that special event on the 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I would expect iOS 14 GM to be released either during or after that event. So we could probably expect the GM build on the 15th, and I also will be live streaming Apple's event. I'm just going to be live streaming basically my reaction so they don't take down the video. But if you guys want to hang out with me and talk about what's new with the Apple products, be sure to join that. Make sure to have the notifications clicked on my channel, and also follow me on Twitter. I will tweet out when I am live. Now, as far as the iOS 14 official release, we could probably expect that the following week. So the week of the 21st, sometime between the 21st and the 23rd is when we can probably expect to see the final version of iOS 14. If not, then we will definitely see it on the week of the 28th, so the final week of September. And that final week of September does lead into October, which is when we'll see the new iPhones get announced and possibly released. And those new iPhones will of course be released with iOS 14.1, since iOS 14 will be released before the new iPhone. So strange things happening this year with Apple. Of course, because of the whole pandemic and things like that, it put a delay on a lot of the manufacturing with the iPhones. But yeah, guys, that is iOS 14 beta 8, by far the best beta yet. And there's really not too many things that need to be fixed. There are some, of course, I mentioned those in this video, but some of them also don't have to do with just specifically iOS 14, like the keyboard lag and things like that. But hopefully we do get a lot of fixes in the GM build as well. I am expecting that. But as far as the performance and battery life, it's probably going to be about the same, just a heads up for you guys. But of course, I will make a video when that does come out, just in case anything else is changed. But yeah, let me know how iOS 14 beta 8 has been for you. Also on the iPad, let me know how it is on iPadOS 14 beta 8. Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss my live stream on the 15th. And of course, all future iOS 14 coverage. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.